Freedom Bench 5/16/21. I've got one question for all of you. 9mm powder? Welcome back to the bench. Let's have a powder discussion tonight. So you can see I've got lined up here some various powders that we've purchased over the past couple months. And I just wanted to take a quick moment to discuss some of these and what we're actually going to use in our 9mm series. So for those of you who have been reloading for a while, you'll notice that I have these powders arranged in a specific order. And just by looking at descriptions, one might think, well, maybe you've got shotgun on the left and then down to rifle on the right. But actually I've got these guys lined up in terms of relative burn rate. So as we start towards the left and we move our way towards the right, the fastest burning powders are on the left, and then as we slowly pan across to the right, we get to our slower burning powders. Now what does that mean? Well, as the name implies, the faster rate it burns, the faster the primer is going to blow up the powder as it rolls down the barrel. So when we're thinking about our beginner 9mm series, I really want to make sure that I pay attention towards our loads and that I want to get the best load that we can for a beginner. That way we have a wide range of variables. That way we're not in such a small group, as some of the names imply, that we're going to get in danger of blowing our face off, which would not be good. So let's just take a look and let's whittle these things down, and let's pick a powder for our 9mm series. So right off the bat, tight wad technically can be used in 9mm, but tight wad is actually for a 12 gauge shotgun. So in a pinch we could use it for 9mm, but we're going to eliminate that. So away it goes. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Hodgdon H335, we're actually going to use that for our 223 and 5.56 loads. In H110, even though it says pistol powder on the bottle, we're actually going to use that in our 350 Legend loads. So let's take those two out of here. That leaves us down to three. Hodgdon Tight Group, accurate number 5, and accurate number 7. Now, since we've got two accurate bottles on the table, I think we're just going to eliminate the one that has the faster burn rate. So let's get accurate number 5 off the table. And now there's two. Hodgdon Tight Group and accurate number 7. And as you can see by the name implies, a little goes a long way. This guy is actually a pretty fast burning powder in 9mm. It's a very economical powder, and just a little bit in terms of grain goes a long way. So we're going to get rid of it, and we're going to focus on accurate number 7 for this beginner series in our 9mm on the road to Bloomington. So now that we got our powder figured out, we're going to need something to use in order to weigh and scale and meter the powder. So what we've got going on for tonight is the Lee per powder measure, which is this guy right here. It's currently disassembled. I haven't put it on the bench yet, and we're going to put that together tonight, and we're going to use that to throw some powder. You'll notice back here towards the end of the bench we installed a piece of wood. That's where the powder measure is going to go. And what this is going to do, I might do a little bit more in-depth video here a little bit later after I've used it a couple times, but this is going to allow us to meter the powder. And ideally this thing can be set up that way we can throw an exact charge every single time we load the case. So we're going to get that together tonight, and a couple more things we're going to use since this is the first time we're looking at throwing powder. I've got a digital scale here that we purchased that we'll be able to use to make sure our charges are being thrown perfectly. And we also have a backup here. This came in the kit that I purchased for the press. This is the Lee Safety Powder Scale, and this thing's really going to be a pain in the butt. I don't really want to feel like I'm in chemistry class again, But you'll notice here that when I was trying to dial this in, this thing is really touchy. And quite frankly, as we continue to meter in there, quite frankly, the first time I'm doing this, I want to double check. So I'm going to make sure that our digital scale is throwing properly, giving us good weights in terms of grains, and then we're going to double check those back against this thing. And then for a third check, which I was recommended to this on various YouTube videos, this is actually a grain scale set to where we can make sure that our digital scale is giving us proper readings as well. So that's 100 grams and 50 grams, as well as some various other weights that we can use to make sure that when we're getting our powder thrown, this is really the most important step of reloading, is making sure your powder is perfect. Now, we don't need it to be so perfect that we're going to win a match or anything like that, but we need to make sure we're fairly consistent here. Again, we don't want to blow our face off. So we got the powder measure mounted here, and we've been doing some practice charges here. And just to start off, everything I said about this guy in the last clip, I take it all back. Because what I've been finding out here is on this $25 Amazon scale, first of all, it only measures in 0.2 grains, which I'm not really too thrilled about that. But this guy, since it is so sensitive and so touchy, you can measure stuff in 0.1 grain values. So everything I said about this guy, I take it back. I don't know that I'm going to use it all the time. I might get a little bit better digital scale, but for purposes of what we're doing tonight, that's going to be the key. Now, I also broke out my Lyman 50th anniversary Bible, as some call it, and we flipped over to the 9mm Luger scale. Here's our specifications on what we're wanting here in terms of case overall length and different widths and diameters that we need to make sure we keep in spec. But also, what I wanted to talk about here is this is the load data for different components and different things that they tested. And we'll notice here they've got 115 grain jacketed hollow point and 125 grain jacketed hollow point. And they don't have anything in here specific to my projectile. So what I did was, since this is Accurate powder, we decided to go out on the website for Accurate to see what they were showing for load data with their 9mm projectiles. And what we're going to use tonight is we are going to use a Berry's 356 round nose plated bullet, 124 grain, and I'm going to try and put an overlay here up on the screen with what our load is going to be. And let's see if I can get it up there. And this is what we're going to shoot for. We're going to shoot for 6.8 grains of Accurate number 7. And I've been doing some testing and not really been too thrilled with the results, but with the addition of this guy here to make sure that we're within, you know, our specifications, I think we're going to be all right. But one thing I wanted to point out is that with every load out there on the manufacturer's website, there's a minimum and a maximum that you want to hit in terms of powder. So as long as we're within those ranges, we're going to try to basically be right smack dab in the middle, probably a little bit below. So as long as we're within those, if they're not exactly with 0.1 grain between each round, I'm not going to worry about it, but that's what we're going to go for right now. See you in a bit. All right, let's drop some powder. Now, I got to admit, I've had quite the issues with this guy here, with this perfect powder measure. And after a good night's sleep and getting upset several times about it, the thing seems to have corrected itself after sitting overnight. Last night when I was working through this video, I couldn't get this thing to drop powder right, and when I would tap the handle there, or just even, you know, raise and lower it, it would just spill this powder everywhere. And after doing some research, it's because this powder is just, it's ball powder, and it's really, I'm not going to dump any out. I don't know if I can even get you in there to see, but this powder is really fine, and it's not flake, it's not stick, it's a really fine ball powder. So it was just falling through everywhere. And what I did was I tightened up this screw right here, and it seems to have corrected the problem, and it seems to be dropping powder fairly accurately. So I've been testing a couple different methods, and I think this is the method I'm going to go with. So I'll show you what I'm doing here, and let's get right to it. Alright, so I've got our brass here, I've got sitting here, and I'm also using this funnel. So in order to get the powder to drop, I've been getting my scale ready to go here, and we will tear it out. We'll put the case on there, and we'll hit tear, get it down to 0, and we're looking for 6.8 grains here. So we'll take the case, and I've been getting the funnel here right over the top of it, and we're going to do up, down, and it's dropped the powder into this case, and we'll set it on there, and this reads 7 grains, and we're looking for 6.8. So then I've been going over here to our safety powder scale, and we'll drop it in there to check this charge. And let's get this thing zeroed in, and this thing is set at 6.8 grains, and you'll notice here that it's right on the money. So I think I got this thing dialed in pretty well, and I like that system of getting the case under here first, dropping the powder, and then dropping it on the scale, and seeing if we're correct on powder. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. This video is starting to get quite long, so I just wanted to explain my process here, and we'll check in a few. I got about 49 other pieces of brass to get done. We'll check in a bit. And there you have it. 50 pieces of brass filled all the way up with 6.8 grains of... Wait, there's no powder in there. Oh yeah, I remember. That's because I dumped it out all over the place while I was picking up last night. Guys, this video's been a disaster. I think that's the way we're going to leave it. First night, couldn't get the powder measure to throw right. Second night, everything worked beautifully, had everything filled up, cases, 6.8 grains of accurate number 7, had the entire bench cleaned up, and then I spilled it everywhere. So, I appreciate you sticking around this long, but you're going to have to wait for another video as we finish out our 9mm series on the road to Bloomington.